I don't understand why you would. I know some people want iPads, but I think the reason they want that is not because they want to achieve some job on it. It's because they saw somebody having that and they gotta be jealous. And they want to have one as well because they have to say I'm as good as this person because I can spend on the. And I have a friend, and I haven't actually said this on the previous show, but he's got two phones. One is an iPhone, and one is the phone he actually uses. Yeah. And I have a relative who's got an iPhone, and he always gets the latest iPhone, like iPhone 4, and he only uses it for games. And then he actually has a phone that he uses to make phone calls, and the iPhone is like it's like the going out phone or something. It's just like earrings or something. It's really weird. It's really spooky actually.
I have to be very careful on what I say about Apple products because my wife has a Mac, so I've got to be very careful when I'm mentioning about fashion and people buying into fashion. I mean, what I think we said before, for certain people, and certainly for my wife, she's very happy with it on a level, not just on the fashion level. I'm sure that did have a part to play in it, but certainly for her and her requirements in a little machine, she's very happy. But moving on from Apple, because I certainly don't advocate Apple products.
Just this one small thing. I said to a friend of mine at the gym yesterday. We have quite a few members in the gym, and when they use the iPhone, the iPhone, or if they use the Shuffle or whatever, and any of the iPods, they have this kind of a Band-Aid thing that they put around their wrist or around their arm somewhere at the top. And that just reminds me, it's kind of like when you're a captain in a football team and you have this thing wrapped around your arm, and it's got the Apple logo, kind of, they have the way it's positioned. It's you've got the iPod on your arm, kind of like a tattoo, and it sticks in your face. And it's like it has to say, "I'm an Apple person and I'm the captain."
Yes.
And that's how it comes. I don't know. That's just how I see that.
I mean, like I say, they've done an excellent job in turning like the geek into the chic, if you see what I mean. So you have to take your hats off to them, whoever managed to develop that little idea. But moving on from Apple very quickly, we're going to talk about another large company here. Sony have dropped the case against GeoHots.
Did that settle?
Sorry?
Did they settle? I thought.
It's allegedly been dropped as to any sort of back office agreements or whatever. Or I mean, I think he's signed an agreement with them not to further distribute the rootkey hack. It was very scarce, the information I've read on it, but to all intents and purposes, I believe Sony has now dropped the matter against Mr. Hotz, and I think that's as a result of numerous things, but mainly because maybe the bad publicity that they received, and the fact that this was it was looking as if it could quite easily turn around on Sony and make Sony into the big bad evil boss.
Yeah. So in Groklaw, she told me personally that the case was positioned in such a way that he doesn't really have much of a chance because given the laws, he had lots of support from the public, and from an ethical point of view, people will say, well, he's just doing whatever he wants with his computer, and you may agree or not agree, but based on the laws as they're written down, and if you do an analysis that's purely legal, he was about to lose the case, or he was about to get trashed. But I think if Sony was to put him in jail or to take his computer and take the IP addresses of every person who was accessing his site, I think they would just call for a lot of bad publicity. And what do they have to gain? I suppose in this case they got basically no charges against him, no intrusion. That's extreme, but they got him to stop distributing the keys, which pretty much is as effective as it would be to almost do nothing, because it's already out anyway, and he doesn't do any hacking work, I suppose, for a while.
And the other little bit of news that caught my eye, actually, I was going to bring this up on the last show, and I completely forgot about mentioning it. And there's been talk in Europe about the latest or the new idea in the fight against piracy, and they've come up with a cracking idea. And I can't for the life of me remember which gentleman put forward this idea, but they've been looking at ways to include code in your browser, natively in your browser, to prevent sites like Pirate Bay being opened up, being accessed by the end user. That was on Torrent Freak which it did make me chuckle a little bit because since we have open source browsers, it's not going to be difficult to produce a browser without any of this silly soppy code in there.
Yeah, or just download a different browser.
But it's like the Digital Economy Act or the Digital Economy Bill. They can never seem to make their mind up. I keep seeing two different references as to when they're referring to it.
You said your son basically disconnected the line for about a week or so. Just imagine if your son starts to browse the web or do anything, or even if your neighbor just uses your open Wi-Fi or something. It's ridiculous, and then lots of the things that we have to do with bankings and to do with government are just even the national census now. It's many people will use the internet to do that, and they'll say, "Well, I cannot do that because I have no connection because you disabled it."
The problem is as I see it, the lobbyists don't tell the government the full picture, and the government don't understand the full picture enough to legislate properly, and this is why we get things like the Digital Economy Act being presented. I mean, if you were to think about it logically, the amount of bureaucracy that would be required to do this three-strike policy would absolutely be a phenomenal waste of money. If the ISP was going to foot some of the bill for this little scheme, you can certainly expect that to be passed on to the end user when ISPs are bound to send out thousands of letters for the first strike, and that doesn't even include the possibility if somebody says, well, hang on, that wasn't me, and we get into appeals and complaints, and it's an absolute nightmare. And I think there's no quick fixes to the piracy problem or copyright infringement in quotes problem, because it's been going on for so long. It's not like this is some new fad that's hit the streets in the last couple of months. This has been going on for years since we first got twin tape recorders, or even before that. It's only now that they're sort of jumping on the bandwagon. I always think that it's very interesting that you look on sites like Torrent Freak where they say the most downloaded movie, and it's funny that there's a direct correlation between the most downloaded movie and the movie that took the most money in the box office, which would to me suggest that people downloading a movie off a torrent tracker, a BitTorrent tracker, isn't detrimental to the profits of a film. And the only people that are suffering in terms of being victims of piracy, in quotes, would be the people that are reducing things that people don't want to buy. And I've always felt very resentful of going to the cinema on the premise of a brilliant trailer, only to find that the film was absolute rubbish, and I've given away £10-20 of my money on something that I was misled into watching. That's how I see it. It'll be an argument that I'm sure we'll still be debating when we're old and grey. I think whatever form the computer in the home takes and digital media, I think we'll be debating this one for years.
Since you mentioned the sort of people who pass these laws, I couldn't help thinking about you mentioned the word piracy too. There was a time last year when they caught the document where it specifies that the issue with IP addresses, an IP address was specified as an intellectual property address, and I think that was written by I think it wasn't even a purely bureaucratic person. It was like a person who was actually trying to pass these laws, so he should know something about technology. And it's also a very funny typo because it kind of shows you how they perceive people's IP addresses. It's all just like intellectual property, and to them it's just like, everything that passes around, even if you go to the BBC now, I can assure you, your computer is going to get a lot of copyrighted content as well as trademark content, because it's going to have the BBC logo on it, and it's going to have all kinds of pictures from Getty or from all kinds of companies that do images. Actually, very few of them now left, because their whole business model is based on the fact that they have to sell people images and to extract money using these images. Now, I can tell you, in my site I really, really enjoy, and I've enjoyed it since 2004, that I found a site called Stock Exchange. It's not written like Stock Exchange, like in English, and it's an Hungarian site, and it contains about 100,000 pictures, photos, contributed by people for free, and I just put some phrases there, like, I don't know, you want a hammer? You get like lots of hammers. You get 100 pictures of hammers. I don't even have to check so much about it. I just know I can use them in my site. And you see lots of sites actually using the same pictures from the same sources. This is not even a Creative Commons thing. You don't have to attribute anything. You just use that. And this is the sort of sharing that makes the copyright cartel or the copyright maximalist very obsolete. And that's been going on since 2004. So the number of sites that actually try to monetize selling your pictures, or yes, they call it licensing your pictures. So even if you pay for them, you can still not do very much with them. You just license the pictures. They still live in a world where they think they can control every single instance, like it's some kind of a poster on a wall. They think they can put a price on it, when in fact you've got all these pipes all across the UK. I think there are like number of clients. BT, for example, it's something like 19 million people. Can you imagine the amount of copyright stuff going around? They'll say, oh, well, this is copyrighted, this is not copyrighted. Well, almost everything you put on the web and people fetch is copyrighted in some